All right, welcome everybody to another episode of the Inside in Tennis podcast. Mitch Michals here, all part of the Believe Network. And remember, you can find this show on all your podcast platforms as well. We're getting up for October, final months of a tennis season that keeps going on and on and on. Joining me now, a former top 10 player, but more than that, she's really become a premier broadcaster. Not just finding her voice, but maybe refining it. Joining the show again, it's been a while, but CoCo Vandeweghe, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you. Refined is a nice term, that's for sure, but I think it's more other people hearing a voice that they didn't think I had, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's part of it, right? Because like a lot of players, we say the phrase, I make joke of it, but like find your voice. But for you, it's kind of like you always had it. You're just letting it out of the bag. And whether it's TNT or ESPN, Tennis Channel, of course, even that Wimbledon final, the like alternate broadcast for ESPN, it felt like that was kind of more your speed. And that's just what the locker room knows. That's safe to say. But now the general public's starting to know.
Yeah. It's been fun to have different looks and different avenues of all the different broadcasting platforms. Like you mentioned, Tennis Channel has been my home base for a while. That's where I got my start. That's where I kind of learned more than I cared to even know about the broadcasting world. But it's been super helpful to then launch into other arenas that and different looks because everyone wants to hear a different thing. I got the first time I ever was on air was for BBC Radio, and that was the first time I ever had the opportunity to see if I even liked doing commentary. So for me, it's everyone has their own voice and cadence and what they like to hear, as well as kind of the viewers. The viewers like to hear certain things, and I'm sure there's plenty that mute me, and there's plenty that turn the volume up. So it goes all sorts of ways.
We see that though, like the one constant theme, like love anyone or hate anyone. It seems like it's authenticity, and that's where you're good. Like you don't have to worry about any
Yeah,
issues there.
I don't think that's changed from my playing career to now the broadcasting career. So it's more so just learning what everyone likes to be around. Like when I'm on desk with Steve Weissman, it's a different look than when I'm speaking to Danny Kleppinger and different from Brett Haber. You know, those big pinnacles of what Tennis Channel has.
How is it too? And I thought about this with someone like yourself who played the game at the very top level. But one of the things players have to do is handle curveballs. Like you prep for everything, and then something crazy happens. How are there similarities with that in broadcasting, where you're all prepped to go, and then there's just a different variable and it zags?
There it seems to happen more in broadcasting than I ever expected it. I mean, it's like you're getting a lucky loser every week. In every round. It's crazy because you're watching a match and it's a highlighted match, but man, this other one that's going on court 17 is going into the fifth set, and we gotta go there and check it out. Or the perfect example was at the U.S. Open when Taylor Townsend was having that crazy tiebreaker in the second set against Barbora Krejcikova. That was
Yeah.
something that you left Arthur Ashe and came and watched Taylor Townsend. So always being prepared, doing your homework. I really didn't realize how much homework goes into what broadcasting is, and obviously everyone has their own kind of rhythm of what they like to talk about, what they like to know, and I definitely have a bit of a inside knowledge of having played a lot of these women before and been around a lot of the men as well. So it goes a bit in both ways of I've hung out with these guys and on both sides of the court.
In that Townsend Krejcikova match, you bring up that tiebreaker was just insane. There was a clip on the broadcast of all these players that were either stretching pre-match, post-match, getting their work in, and they're all huddled around a TV like as fans. Do you remember situations like that when you played where it's not, it could even be a men's match where something crazy happens and you just stop what you're doing and watch it?
Yeah, for sure. There's tons of them, especially when it gets to a grand slam. When the men are playing 3 out of 5, or now with the super breaker, the 10 point tiebreaker, there's less of that long moments of just what brought tennis together. I think what US Open does as well as any other tournament, if not better, is the crowd makes a match happen. And I enjoy that as a player of having the crowd kind of sway things. It's very similar to what Old Davis Cup and Billie Jean King Cup used to be like, of you use the home crowd advantage. And sometimes even if you are kind of the favorite, you aren't the favorite out there. And
Yeah.
it's fun. And I've seen that and grown up with that on a lot of different sporting platforms. And I love seeing it in tennis now, just becoming more and more of an opportunity.
Yeah, one of the first times we got to chat, we were talking about it, and your background being different, didn't come from the tennis like program, so to speak, had athleticism in your family, but in different sports. So it kind of changes your perspective. But one of the things, and we were chatting before we started with the Ryder Cup last weekend, and you got to go to it, which was obviously a pretty cool experience. But I found that when you put individual players like golf or tennis players in team sports, it's like their one opportunity to be part of not just themselves. And you see it get tense, you see it maybe get a little too tense at times, but when you put national pride on the line as well, it's just something different, especially when you're a tennis player or a golfer that just usually plays by yourself.
Yeah, you see it a lot in these individual sports, like you said. Having been on Billie Jean King Cup ties and playing for your country, representing your country at the Olympics, you see sometimes the best players in the world crumble because
Mhm.
you only get a snippet of this moment of playing at the biggest stage, representing your country, playing for something bigger, but you also see what it can bring out of you. It took me a multitude of tries in order to get my first win out there representing the USA, and it was because the moment was too big, and I let it overcome me. And you can see that happen a lot in moments where it's the rookie getting out there to try
Yeah.
and clinch it, or to have that massive upset, or you even see like someone ranked 200 in the world beat a top 20 player, and it's like, wait, this is, you wouldn't even be in the same tournaments as me. So it's
Yeah.
not so much that it's bigger than you, but at the same time, it's how much you let the
Right.
moment overtake you. And I think that a lot of different moments can overtake you in a lot of different
Yeah.
situations. And to me, being at the Ryder Cup, it was super fun being out there. I had all my USA gear on and stuff like that. But you could just see the difference of when they switched to the individuals, how much better the US team was. But when it came to the team play, of doing the alternate shot, doing the four ball. It was just different because the Europeans grow up in that atmosphere. So
Mhm.
it's very much okay, we're running and chasing our own tail a little bit. And
Yeah.
you can see that sometimes in the Fed Cup, Billie Jean King Cup ties and the Davis
Yeah.
Cup ties where you get these group of players together and they just don't gel. And
Right.
it's okay. We saw, I read in Andre's book, like there was a couple of ties where he was there and then Pete would show up and they just didn't gel at first. They spoke different languages, and
Yeah.
it's so much about having good team chemistry is having kind of a pillar, whether it's a captain or maybe a player that's been there and has gone through the hard yards, or maybe it's a veteran that has been on teams and a multitude of things. So it just, you need that kind of pillar of strength of like, no, 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 guys, this is what
Yeah.
we're doing, this is how we're doing it, fall in line, or go to the back. And that's kind of what I've always felt has gone well in my experiences
Yeah.
of Billie Jean King Cup ties.
Yeah, and it was cool to see the Americans fight, when they were up against it to even make it as close as they did. But the camaraderie and the continuity you mentioned, I think Europe brought 11 guys back. There was only two new players, so they just brought a lot of winners back who knew their roles and can settle right in. And you brought something else up too that I think is interesting. You're talking about players that maybe you've beaten before, venues that you've had success in, but that doesn't mean much when you're playing in a whole new environment. Like a Fed Cup tie could be played at a venue where you had a tournament, you could be playing someone lower ranked, and it doesn't quite make the difference. It's just an entirely different circumstance. It brings out the best in you, as you said. And I'll say this because you were on that team that won the whole thing. That tie in the final against Belarus, that was the first time I was like, there's something with this Sabalenka girl. Like she's not running from the moment. And I know it went for the Americans, but you start to see what really character these players have in the biggest moments.
Yeah, we interviewed her. I forget I think it was probably ESPN or something, and she came to the desk, and we were talking about like her come up in success. And I was sitting there and I said, it was wild. We were playing you 2017. I mean, she might have been 20 years old, if not still a teenager, and she's beating Sloane Stephens, who had just won the U.S. Open. And we're like, who is this kid? Like, now you can look back and be like, oh, I always knew it then. But it was just
Right.
like, you're looking at this like, wait, what the heck? Like, she's carried this team to,
Yeah.
the finals as a teenager or 20-year-old, whatever she was at that time, and she's taking down seasoned vets and doing it with not being scared of the moment. And I think that's the biggest thing that you see when people talk about, oh, this person has the it factor, is they're not scared of the big stage. They walk around like they belong, and they walk around and play like they belong, because sometimes you might walk with the swagger and everything like that, but does the
Right.
game, your tennis game, rise and meet what that expectation is of playing a top 10 player in the world, where you might have maybe 2 minutes of them being lackadaisical out there? And do you pounce? Are you able to? And those are the kind of the things that you see from players that, oh, okay, wow, they had a big splash at this tournament, but do they repeat? And there's a couple of names that have come up, and Vicky Mboko is one of them that was a rising star,
Yeah.
obviously coming in to U.S. Open injured, didn't really get to see what she could do at another Grand Slam on hard courts after having a huge win in Canada, basically winning her own Grand Slam there. And then you have João Fonseca, who everyone's been talking about, that has risen up through the rankings like crazy, and has
Yeah.
played to such a level that we speak about in the next great, the guy that can win multiple Grand
Mhm.
Slams. So there's definitely, you see it and you see what it means, but can they produce? And
Yeah.
obviously staying healthy is a huge component of that.
And when you talk about those young players like Mboko and Fonseca, part of what we love about them is, exciting. They can notch big wins, but they're still, we forget how young they are. Managing schedules as someone that lived that, how did your team balance? Okay, you're still a teenager, your early 20s. How do you be smart about what events you play? You want to get reps, but you want to do it in the smartest way possible.
See, my team had to keep making me play. I didn't like playing that heavy
Okay.
of a schedule. I was on the lighter end when it came to WTA tournaments, no matter where my ranking was. I knew where I basically decided how to construct my schedule was, where do I play best? And that's hard court and grass. And then, okay, so now where can we cut? And that's the clay court season. And so you wouldn't see me on a clay court until maybe Stuttgart was my first one. Maybe if I got in the main draw, but that's only because Stuttgart was like the coolest tournament to go to, and the possibility of winning a Porsche, and it was indoors, so at least I had a chance.
Yeah.
And then I would play Madrid, and that was it. I would go back home and then play the French Open, because I knew I needed to be fresh for the grass courts. So Rome was not even on my radar, as much as my coach at the time, Craig Carden, was like, Coco, you're gonna love it. The food, it's so great. The courts are playing fast. And I was like, I play this. I'm too exhausted come grass court season,
Yeah.
because I know in the first part of the year, come Australia, I'm playing every tournament. Going into the US swing of Indian Wells, Miami, I'm playing every tournament. And then at that point, we had Fed Cup. And so I was playing two Fed Cup ties before I even made the clay court swing. So I'm probably already playing 12 to 13 events at that point, where the max I ever played, I think, was 25 tournaments. So I've played half of my year already in the first third of the year. And it was kind of a give and take. And Asia obviously is one of those swings that a lot of players struggle through, because what are we playing for anymore?
Is that the
And
mental exhaustion too, like this time of
yeah,
year?
you
Because yeah.
just hit the last Grand Slam. Okay, if you're not playing for year-end championships, what are we doing? Like, we're just scrounging up a couple of extra points. We're getting good paydays out there, but still at the same time, you see the players that can kind of take advantage. And I would maybe play two tournaments out there in Asia if I had nothing else, just because it was like it was too hard. And usually I was pretty broken at the end of the year. I would have some sort of stress fracture in my foot, or my shoulder would be toast. And so we're just basically compounding the lack of preseason that I could have going into Australia, where then again, I'm going to push hard.
Yeah.
So it was learning how many weeks I needed off at the end. And off is still training. So I would take 10 days off at the end of the year, and then
Mm.
I'd be back training for about a six maybe 8 week block of training
Okay.
again. So that was kind of how I learned where I liked. But if you started to feel like you weren't performing, weren't collecting the points that you needed, that's where you were like, okay, I need to pick up an extra tournament where I don't want to be playing, or I should be home this week and I'm not because I haven't really performed come
Right.
Indian Wells. So I got to pick up one more clay court tournament somewhere, or something like that.
Yeah, you add in defending points, and that's the other side of it, where you come back and follow up, you have a bad result, and players are chasing. It definitely feels like chasing's part of it. And the good news is, and I'm obviously kidding, is that the schedule's getting even longer. So these extended events are making it. I just I worry a little bit about some of the younger players that are navigating these waters that are kind of uncharted for them. But you hope that they have good teams around them, and you see what growth can do. And looking at the U.S. Open in your time covering it, Coco, you saw players like Sabalenka, obviously Anisimova, make the finals, where these were players that had gone through a lot of significant trauma, on and off the court, and shows you that they are able to fight through it. Anisimova, her case, 2 straight major finals. There was something poetic about her year, right, where she just gets absolutely destroyed at Wimbledon, but avenges that loss against Iga and makes the final. Another player, you forget just how young she is. So I think there's light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of these players, even if it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, I think especially for the younger players, the younger generation, you're seeing so much of these teens become almost parent figures to them in a way of like, hey, let's navigate into this direction. Maybe we shouldn't have done so much. I think the best example that we've seen of somebody doing it right and wrong a couple of times and Coco Gauff admitted this was after the French. She went on this great press tour and well deserved, absolutely winning the French in the fashion that she did, but was super burnt out come Wimbledon, come the grass court. We saw her go out early in Berlin, and she didn't play another tournament before then. And you really saw her kind of suffer in the early stages, and I do mean suffer more so as a internally, not so much suffer as results, because you could see cracks of, okay, you're getting a little bit frustrated too quickly, or you're seeing the doubt start to weigh into players' minds. And that's something that you can look for come going into the US Open swing of, okay, how burnt out are these players? Because it's so wear and tear of 2 Grand Slams back to back, French and Wimbledon. It's about a 3 week stretch that, usually you don't get any breaks. And you're going into the US swing that has now been extended to a crazy amount. I think it's crazy. I remember it being talked about in player meetings when I was still on tour, and I was vocal saying, this is insane. Why would we extend a schedule that everyone's already trying to not play? And you saw the damage that it did of a lot of players not playing. And
Yeah.
that's something that the tours can't afford. And unfortunately, money talks and something else walks.
Well, yeah, that part's 100% true. And Djokovic said that too, right? Like he's like, look, and he's on the way out, so he can kind of have a different perspective. But it's like, I agree, but the players didn't unify, and they had a chance to nip this, and they weren't as proactive, which is part of how this works. But yeah, I'm looking at Coco Gauff from perspective. Do you think that, are you shocked at all that she's playing through all these issues? And I mean, she's really trying to do something that's tough for anybody, let alone the best tennis players in the world. She's trying to revamp her serve like on the fly. Are you surprised she's playing through it? Because we know that she's going to fight and compete regardless, but that she's not maybe taking a couple weeks to hit the practice courts and try to fix it there.
Yeah, but to that point, where are the
Yeah.
couple weeks that you can
Hmm.
take?
Yeah.
And being an American, you're playing on a US soil, you're gonna perform and you want to. And that's something where it's like, this is where the off season, or maybe even you don't start Asia as quickly. You can kind of build in that way of okay, I'm happy to make mistakes now because Grand Slams are out. I have very little to play for now at this point. So I don't mind making the mistakes in match because that's where you need to see if the technique, the changes, the mental toughness is going to perform under pressure when you're facing break point at four serving five and you're like, okay, am I going to stand up to the challenge? Those you can't replicate in a practice. And it's as many times as you can put yourself in those difficult situations, the better you are when it comes time to say, okay, I'm playing for the semifinal berth to get into the finals. Am I ready to go? And that to me, I think I'm completely confident in Coco Gauff's ability to do that because we've seen her do it. And anytime somebody doubts Coco Gauff, she steps up to the challenge and puts doubters to the wayside and digs their grave for them. It's unbelievable. And there's something to be said of the character that she has and being able to do it time and time again. And also knowing myself as an athlete, what it takes to say, hey, something's not good enough. Because we have egos. I mean, everyone does. Mitch, you got an ego too.
A
Like
little bit, a
we
little bit.
we go out there and we're like, no, 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 my stuff is just as good, if not better, than your stuff. So why should I change? And I'm still winning even with these difficulties that I have. So it's all credit to her character, all credit to her looking how to change, what to change, digging up, flipping over every rock and seeing what's going to go on. And I think it's going to be more of a long-term process of we're going to probably see results come Australia because there's just not enough time to fix anything now. It's just the way the schedule is mapped out. It's the way that things go, and there's too many big tournaments left to play. And she's got big tournaments on her mind. She wants to win those year-end championships. She wants to win the 1000. So I have utmost confidence that she'll be able to figure this out without a doubt.
Yeah, no one wants to skip the WTA finals in Saudi, which she won last year.
I'll be
That's not
there. I'll be there, Mitch. I'm not skipping.
no one's skipping. More with Coco Vandeweghe here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. Just catching up with Coco, discussing some of the top tennis storylines as the tennis world shifts to Asia, and we have all these interesting storylines and subplots as the season winds down. I was just watching Jesse Pegula this morning survive Emma Raducanu in an epic match, someone that's still motivated. But I also wanted to bring up this, Coco. Did you see the nicknames that the Chinese fans have where they're calling Jesse Big Rich and Emma Navarro Little Rich?
No, I didn't see that. I saw
Yeah,
a couple of the other ones that was like, the accountant or whatever was going on. I forget who
yeah.
who got what name, and I was like, this is amazing. I mean, having been on the Asia swing and stuff like that, I don't think I was ever dubbed a nickname, thank goodness, but it's challenging for sure being in Asia and playing and the conditions out there. But I think it's what we're seeing some players relish, and I think Emma Raducanu is one of them. I think I'm more giving credit to Jess Pegula because after that tough defeat in the Fed Cup final, Billie Jean King Cup final, it's not easy to pick yourself up and play again. And it's definitely probably the toughest losses you'll ever have is, losing in a final. And I've lost in one final in a Fed Cup. My first ever tie
Yeah.
I ever played was against Italy in San Diego. So that was not
Yeah.
fun at
Oh,
all.
oh,
And so it's tough as players to come back, refocus, get back into individual play, and to kind of get things back rolling. I'm impressed with Emma Raducanu with the new coaching team that she has, with what she's been able to implement, starting to push these top players more consistently. We're starting to see her play more consistently, so that's going to be a good storyline coming into Australia to see now again come into off season have a lot of time with the new coach with everything that comes with an off season and see what she's able to do in Australia for Jessie. It's going to be okay. What level do we have coming into
yeah.
the year end? And so it's very different ideas for different players of how we're going into this Asia swing.
Yeah, you lose a team competition like the Billie Jean King Cup, you're sharing that a little bit with playing for your country. So it's going to sting. But yeah, it was a heck of a match today. It was really good for her. One of the other matches we have in Beijing, I wanted to bring up. Shout out to Eva Lee. She's having like the year of her life. She beat Rybakina. She's into the fourth round. She'll play McCartney Kessler. And I wanted to, because I've been impressed with Kessler since she stormed onto the scene last year out of Florida. A little bit of a late bloomer considering things, but has been playing very well. Coco, what do you think of the new crop, the next up crop of American girls? We know about the girls at the top of the sport, but you've got some players, and Kessler's at the forefront. Ashlyn Kruger's coming up. There's other names. There's so many ranked in the top 100. But what are your thoughts on Kessler and this new crop of girls from the U.S.?
Yeah, and then there's I mean there's a ton. Claire V, Robin, Montgomery. I'm
Baptiste for
sure
sure.
I'm forgetting
Yeah.
probably 10 more that probably should be mentioned. But
Yeah.
that's the great thing about American tennis is, especially women's American tennis, is there's been such a big crop consistently, and I think that helps for the next generation of, it's not just that these girls are coming in and they're by themselves. They're coming in and they have somebody like a Taylor Townsend or a Haley Baptiste, even though Haley's still young. I mean, or Jess and Coco. There's a crop that builds together, and we've seen that work really well. I think with McCartney Kessler, she had that ab injury that set her back a little bit. Had to find her rhythm of winning again. So that's a great thing for her. I've been so impressed with Ashlyn Kruger of how she started to develop her game, and she's talked about the mentorship that Jess Pegula has had with her, and her style of game has really been impressive. It's all about confidence when you're that young. Of you get that first big top 10 win, like you
Yeah.
just mentioned with Eva Lise, and then do you build on it? You're qualifying most every week. Now you're in the main draw. Are you able to now make a run to quarters? And that's those little milestones of just keeping it into perspective as a young player of, okay, I still achieved something really good even though I lost. And
Yeah.
that's such a tough thing because there's only one winner at the end of the
Right.
week. So it's always great to see those young women play doubles and have that kind of winning
Yeah.
feeling when they leave a tournament. And I think that's what you're seeing a lot of these younger generation players start to do a little bit more than I think the last generation that came through. That's been, I think, a big component of it.
Yeah, totally agree with that point. And it's funny, talking last week or 2 weeks ago to Brad Stein, Tommy Paul's coach, he said the American guys now, there's a camaraderie that's as good as it's ever been. I felt like, and you could speak to this, it's kind of been that way for the American women. It's been building up where there's a little more camaraderie than maybe generations past. Like Pegula, you said, I didn't even know that story, mentoring Ashlyn Kruger. I feel like there's some camaraderie and some looking out for each other that goes on with the women's U.S. players.
I think it's been more so a camaraderie of generations. I
Mm,
think so much of the way you're raised within the USTA, and I can speak to it myself, it's kind of, big brothers watching, and,
mm.
the next generation's going to take your spot. And so then it keeps kind of your like, okay, we got to keep you at bay, young 16-year-old, chill out, that sort of thing.
Don't
But
get too good. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But now I think it's there's so much of, I mean, I did it myself of wanting to know what the generation before has gone through, and wasn't so, receptive when I was coming out. I mean, the next generation that I had was or came before me, I think was like Vanya King, Bethany Maddox Sands, and it was kind of like, yeah, we're good kind of stuff. But now, like, I mean, B and
No, I
I
know
are
your friends,
close
obviously.
close friends now. But
Yeah.
like when I was first coming out, I was like, you know, but well deserved. I hadn't earned anything,
Yeah.
and I think now when I made it a big point of telling the USTA or whoever the USTA coach was that was traveling with some of these younger players to be like, I know how difficult it is to get a practice court. You let me know if so, whoever the young gun is that wants to practice. And I remember practicing with Amanda Anisimova in Miami, telling Kathy Rinaldi, "Hey, no problem. You let me know." She must have been 14, 15, and I'm top 10 in the world. And so like you give them that kind of opportunity to be, hey, you're getting a main stage court, you're going to have an hour, no stress, no pressure, where usually when you're that
Yeah.
outside the top 100, maybe a wild card, you're getting 30 minutes on an outside court. You're not seeing the main site for till your match
Yeah.
day and have fun. And so those little leg ups, I think, help as far
Yeah.
as getting comfortable, feeling confident in yourself, because at such a young age, it's hard to feel comfortable and confident. And I think everyone can say that about their 16-year-old self.
Oh, for sure. I think that goes without saying. So if I have this right though, like Anisimova's backhand, you can take credit for that.
No chance. I think it was like beating the crap out of me when I was hit. I was like, oh, that she's not going to see one backhand out here.
No.
But no, that her
No.
backhand is so good. It's there's so much nuance to it that's like the technique, the big shoulder turn that she gets, and it disguised so well. But I think for her, her backhand, she hits it in very different ways of she can get that ball deep, which is super important for her game, but also with the same look, it can get angled short. And it's not like a short spinny one, it's
No.
getting driven through the baseline. So it gives you way less time to catch up. She's a very similar hitter to like a Rybakina or a
Mm.
Sabalenka. And you
Yeah.
see how much she disrupts Sabalenka. And when she gets in that backhand rally with Aryna pulls the trigger too early and
Mm.
starts to panic out of it, which it's her strength against Amanda's strength. And you're thinking to yourself,
Yeah.
why am I losing this battle? I'm number one in the world. I'm the best at it,
Right.
right?
Right. That was kind
And
of the
so,
Naomi match too at the U.S.
yeah,
Open, similar,
yeah,
but you don't usually
exactly.
see Naomi get out hit on occasion. And
It's
yeah,
scary when it happens to you for
yeah,
the first time as a big hitting player to be like, oh no, there's somebody that can do this a little bit better, a little bit quicker than me. How are
hmm
we going to disrupt them?
yeah, yeah. It's like getting punched in the mouth when you're a heavyweight boxer. It's like this isn't fun. I usually do this. Well, in Tokyo, we got a final coming up. It's going to be a rematch of the Labor Cup. It's going to be Taylor Fritz and Carlos Alcaraz, who Alcaraz just won, I believe, his 66th match this year. So pretty good work if you can get it for the number one player. But Fritz beat him in the Labor Cup, and I know people can read into that a lot of different ways, but he handled him in that match, showed variety. We know it'll be a different surface, but is this a chance for the American Taylor, who's been the guy for American tennis for the last couple of years? Can he win a final, a tour level 500 final against the number one player?
Boy, it's going to be tough, but Fritz is so tough in 2 out of 3 because he doesn't have to go into the physicality that it takes to be in 3 out of 5. He doesn't have to be an athlete with Carlos Alcaraz because when it comes to athleticism, Carlos Alcaraz is in a world of his own, just like Novak Djokovic was in his prime. And that's why only Jannik Sinner and Novak can really compete in that athleticism department with Carlos. But for Taylor, being that I'm having played in Japan many times in Tokyo, that court is lightning. That thing is so fast, and I think that helps Taylor. But I think where Taylor struggles when it comes to a fast surface is being able to get enough returns back into play. And that allows Carlos a lot more freedom to be able to change up his stance on the return to serve for Taylor, to be able to try different opportunities. Because when you're holding at 40-15 versus holding going deuce add 3 times, you give yourself a lot more leeway or at least more freedom internally to be like, hey, it's not that bad. Like I'm holding pretty easy. Let's
Yeah.
try this up. Maybe I take 2 steps back. Maybe I give him a look on this 15 all point and step in and just change it up. Where if you're struggling for your life on your own service games, you don't
Right.
feel that same sort of freedom. And does Taylor do it? I mean, he's got the confidence of that Labor Cup, but I think Carlos Alcaraz with a
Yeah.
little revenge on his mind. I'm kind of leaning to Carlos in this one, unfortunately, for the American fans.
I know. Well, what I liked about Taylor, even though it was different, as you said, was that he was coming forward a lot. He was trying different things. It has to be hard, right? Like you're a top 10 player, you're a top 5 player. You can, like you say, beat everybody else, but you play someone that can handle your strengths, your world-class strengths. It's like you were talking about egos earlier. It's hard to have that ability to change things up. He's showing that I'll go to something I'm not maybe the most comfortable in to try it. But yeah, at the end of the day, like you said it, Carlos Alcaraz, is the favorite in every match he plays. When he plays the best, he is the best. You'd like to see if Taylor can be a disruptor, but it's tough. It's going to be, it's always a tough challenge to beat Alcaraz. You've got to kind of hope maybe he's off a little bit and then Taylor has an opening, but mental toughness has never been an issue for Taylor. So I'd like to think that he'll be in the fight till the very end.
No, Fritz is a gamer,
Mhm.
that's for sure. He sees a challenge in front of him, and anytime he's talked about as not being competitive, he's always stepped up. And I
Yeah.
think the perfect example is the second he becomes American number two for the men, he jumps a whole different level and blitzes through everybody. So I wouldn't count him out, but
Yeah.
I feel like in a gambling sense, it's hard pressed, like you said, to bet against
Well,
Alcaraz.
with Fritz, and I heard this story about him, but it's probably true for players yourself when you were ranked really high. Like, there's an ego that you have to have, there's a confidence you have to have. Where someone was telling me about Fritz, like, he just doesn't believe that players ranked lower than him should ever beat him. Like, that's the mindset. Like, that's it. Like, I'm ranked higher, I win. That's how it works. And it doesn't always work that way, but that's the mindset you have to have.
Yeah, well, having known Taylor since he was 8 years old, yeah, he's had that since the word go, and probably even in a delusional sense when he was
Yeah.
younger, of being like, probably thinking he could beat me, and I was like, come on, chill out, like
Yeah.
this isn't even close, but yeah, you do have to
Yeah.
have that self-belief, otherwise, I mean, locker room presence does carry a lot of weight, and I think there's respect earned and then there's respect taken. And I think he's trying to take some respect out there to
Mhm.
be like, no, 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 it's not just Sinner and Alcaraz. I'm here too. Or Sinner, Alcaraz, and Djokovic. Like, I'm here too. Now,
Yeah.
he's what, four in the world now, five in the world? Like,
Uh-huh.
that should be the conversation of I'm contending. Instead, we're having conversations like, now these guys are just a different kind of beast compared to everybody else.
As we wind things down here with the CoCo Vandeweghe and the Inside in Tennis podcast, it's been a pleasure catching up, talking about tennis's top storylines. And there is the Beijing tournament on the men. We got the women's tournament that's ramping up 1,000, the men's a 500, and its semifinals are set. CoCo with Sinner taking on Demon Hour, which I love Demon, but it's always been a tougher matchup. That matchup just doesn't do him any favors. But as we started recording, or just before, the other semi was set. Werner Tien got through. Musetti had to retire, but it was Medvedev beating Zverev. And I bring that up because you were there at the U.S. Open when Medvedev hit the low of lows, coaching change, reviewing a few things, I think maybe off the court, but he's back in a semifinal with a top five win. So maybe just turning the page can help the mad scientist.
There's nothing that can cure a heartbreak or disappointment in your season than winning. And I
Mhm.
think for Medvedev, he's always going to be that guy that needs a little bit of fire, similar like a McEnroe. You need a little bit of something because not all the time you show up with your best, being like, man, I love being here. I love playing this person. I mean, I'd go out against players and hate playing them. I mean, there's so much to be said about a matchup, and Medvedev has owned that Zverev matchup. He has for some time now, since probably juniors, if I remember off the top of my head how long they've been playing
Mhm.
against each other. And it's so funny to see that carry over into the pros and still stay that way in the pros, where Zverev had that great success early on and was ranked high, and Medvedev was a slow climber. But to me, for Medvedev, there's so much of just getting back to basics when things are getting out of hand, and so many players across different sports can attest to that. Of like,
Mhm.
it can just even be as simple as your footwork or focusing on your technique. Those are simple things that you can control and take care of. If someone's playing out of their shoes, then hey, too good on the day, but did I take care of what I can control? And that is something that I think that Medvedev will have to keep searching
Yeah.
for, because obviously him having his daughter at the start of the year, his second daughter, that really kind of delayed his start. He showed up to Australia with no tournaments being played, and then kind of had to find his game quickly when everyone's already kind of in the season, in kind of the role of things. And I think for Medvedev, I will still see him at the top of the game. Whether he can win another Grand Slam or not, I don't think so with the way that the game is going. Unfortunately, Father Time catches up to everybody. And now Medvedev, as much as he's still in the hunt, he'll need other things to fall away for him to be able to win. He doesn't really control his own destiny in the same way that a Sinner and Alcaraz does, or even one of those guys that has contended as of the last 3 to 5 years.
Right. Yeah, it's poetic that he gets Lorna Tien, who is the loss in Australia that started this this tumultuous season. I'm still just trying
season for Tien. I mean,
he's top 40 now, I think. Like, yeah,
it's
been
crazy
great.
for a guy that was going to go to school and play there and then have that great success in Australia. And it's like, you know what? Pros it is. I mean, what a turnaround. And he's beaten a lot of top players and has still things to improve, but that lefty action is undefeated for sure.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how that camera guy ended up on the court in that match against Bonzi. Like, I'm just wondering what he was thinking still to this day. But
he's probably regretting it, losing that credential.
we'll never know what was actually happening there. Well, Coco, this has been fun. The last thing I wanted to ask you was, what were your thoughts at the Dirk Nowitzki tennis tournament this year in Dallas? I saw you were there. There were some big names there. I think you might have even been rallying with rookie #1 pick Cooper Flagg. I don't know what his game was like, but how was it, being there?
I was hitting a little bit with Cooper Flagg. He said he wasn't going to play tennis because obviously there's like we've been talking about all podcast long, egos. We don't want to go out there and embarrass ourselves, and obviously coming into a sport that he's never even played or touched a racket, it'd be a little crazy, but athletes are gamers, so he wanted to hit some, so I was like, come on, let's go hit out there a little bit. Joakim Noah was there, and we were talking about he was going to the Ryder Cup after that, and he hadn't played in God knows how many years, and he's like, man, this got me the bug again. And it's just fun to see all those athletes. It still surprised me that Dirk just thumps down a 130 serve like nobody's business. Steve Nash is a great player. Like he plays every day. He loves it. He hits with a lot of friends of mine out there in Arizona, and everyone says like it's such a joke of how good he is, and it's true. I mean, he's good. He can play, but when it came go time, Team Dirk with the win, thanks to yours truly, and I took MVP titles after that, so I felt good about myself.
You give them like a couple games where it's like everybody have fun, but now the top players have to take control of this.
I mean, Dirk, you can't lose at your own event, so we gotta get the win.
Wow, 130, huh? Like he really just still cranks serves.
It's silly. It's silly.
Because Nose was telling me like, okay, Dirk's good. It's a lot of serve and forehand, but he can actually play because he grew up playing it. So
yeah, he just can't move anymore. That's the tough part. So I mean, if you're serving a $130 against Joe Schmoes, and you're good to go.
Was there anybody out there that you're like, hey, maybe I could help train you? It needs a little work. Like we can, I appreciate the enthusiasm, but game needs a little work. You don't have to throw anyone under the bus. Oh, yourself, yeah.
I was enthusiastic, but the game wasn't there all the time. I was like, oh man, Coco, you need some work.
Hey, it happens to everyone. It happens to everyone. But Coco Vandeweghe, always a blast. We always appreciate you here on the Inside in Tennis podcast. You're welcome anytime. The very last thing, do we have any 5-star vacations with DC coming up?
I've got it planned. She just has to book her flight. So it's out there. It's same time as always. My birthday leading into her birthday. So December, that's where it's at. So she's on the clock.
You were when she gave you that shout out in Australia where you're like, yeah, let's go.
Okay, so I couldn't hear anything she was saying when that whole thing was going down. I was getting text messages afterwards, and I was like, "What happened?" And but yeah, she actually went back, and unfortunately, Tennis Channel had me booked up, so I couldn't come and join her. But yeah, it's on the table to head back, and I don't know what this yacht situation is that she's talking about, but that's not the vacation I was on.
Okay, yeah, the Danielle Collins, Coco Vandeweghe trips. We'll see. Maybe a travel booking service. Who knows? Maybe it's like a 5-star business idea.
We know how to have fun. That's for sure.
Yeah. CoCo Vandeweghe, always a pleasure. We'll have to have you on again soon, but thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks.
That was CoCo Vandeweghe. This was the Inside in Tennis podcast. We are available on all your platforms. Just go to Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon Music, you name it, and check out the YouTube channel at Mitch Michals for the full video episode. We've got more great content with more amazing guests such as CoCo Vandeweghe down the pike coming soon. So enjoy the rest of the 2025 tennis season. I'm Mitch Michals. This was the Inside in Tennis podcast. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.